Hello everybody, my name is Ryan and this is lesson 12 of learning HTML and CSS. In this lesson we'll be learning about character entities. Now if you look at your keyboard you'll see a whole lot of letters and numbers and punctuation marks. Those are all part of the character set we spoke about when we looked at the meta tag to create a character set. So in our case we're using UTF-8, which is the Unicode standard. It's a universal kind of character set. And if we look on W3 Schools under character sets, right at the bottom we have UTF-8, which is the one we're using. And if you click on the C1 controls and Latin 1 supplement, you'll see that in addition to the keys that we have on our keyboard, these characters also belong to that UTF-8 character set. And sometimes we need these characters, for example the pound sign or the yen sign, copyright symbol, registered trademark. These symbols do not appear on our keyboard anyway, and yet we often need to make use of them. So what we use then is what we call a character entity. And a character entity always begins with an ampersand and ends with a semicolon. So to create a pound sign, you would say ampersand pound, semicolon. Let's do an example. So if I want 20 pounds, ampersand pound, semicolon, 20. And there you can see the pound sign. It's a little bit small, but if we had to increase our font size, you could see quite clearly. Let's do some more examples. I'll do the copyright symbol next. It's ampersand copy, semicolon. Copyright 2014. There's our copyright symbol. And you'll pick out one or two that will be useful to you. For example, the quarter, half, three-quarter symbols. You may occasionally use that. Also, if you do maths, you might use the degree symbol. Or even if you do GPS coordinates, you might want to use that as your degrees. Registered trademark, for example, Microsoft. Let's have a look at that. Ampersand reg. There's also ampersand trade for a regular trademark, but the registered trademark is the one that appears with an R in a circle. If you're South African, then you may use some of these symbols, for example the A with a double dot, or the E with a copy, or the E with a double dot. You just copy and paste the character entity from W3 Schools. And you should get that character. Now there are certain reserved characters in HTML. For example, the less than sign, the greater than sign, the double quotation mark, and of course the ampersand. So all four of these symbols are used within HTML. So if you wanted to display a real live double quotation mark, you can't go and use a literal double quotation mark because it conflicts with the HTML language. So you would either need to use the Q tag, which we learnt about earlier, which is for quotation, but that would then give you an opening and a closing quotation. If you just want one, you can say ampersand QUOT without the E on the end. Then you would get your double quotation mark. The same thing applies to less than and greater than signs. Because less than and greater than signs are part of an HTML tag, in order to create a less than or greater than sign, we say ampersand LT. That means less than. And if you want a greater than sign, it would be ampersand GT and a semicolon. So if you ever were creating a website to teach somebody how to code in HTML, you could show them an HTML tag like this. Okay, an ampersand sign is also reserved, so we can't go and put a literal ampersand. We have to say amp. Then we'll get your ampersand sign. So if you can get a list of all of these from W3 Schools, and in fact many websites on the internet. Just search for character entities and you should find sites that will give you these codes. Another interesting one is the non-breaking space, NBSP, non-breaking space. A normal HTML will only take one space between two words. So as soon as you add multiple spaces, it will ignore those spaces. As you can see, it's only given the one space between the character and entities. But if you had to put the and NBSP, you can paste that as many times as you want, and that's how many spaces you'll get. Each one of these is a space, equivalent of a space. There you can see multiple spaces. And that ends our lesson on working with character entities.